All right, folks, today's Roland Unfiltered. Got a great show for you today. Ben Jealous, who's running for governor of Maryland on the Democratic side, he will be right here on our set, talking about, of course, his campaign against Larry Hogan. We are 6 days away from Election Day, and we are, of course, the final days of early voting as well. The Queen of Talk, Oprah, she is headed to Georgia to campaign for Stacey Abrams. It is a tight race in Georgia, and guess what? Brian Kemp, a Republican challenger, he has canceled his debate with her on Sunday. Just said, I can't find time to do it. He's going to be with Trump in Macon, Georgia. But I also think she's been kicking his butt in those debates. The last thing he wants is to give her more momentum heading into the final weekend. Speaking of Brian Kemp, a federal court keeps in place in order to help tens of thousands of voters caught in the exact match voter suppression program. And so we'll talk about that. Also, black candidates are running across the country for Attorney General. We talked with the brother who's running in Florida. Today, we'll talk with Aaron Ford, who is running for Attorney General in Nevada. President Barack Obama, he is hitting the campaign trail he's in Gary, Indiana, for Senator Joe Donnelly, who's trying to hold on to his seat. But, Joe, really, what the hell were you doing talking about people of color? Yeah, where did you hear what he said? I don't know when these white folks going to learn. Also, an Arizona black Republican had the nerve to challenge me on social media about the Young Black Conservative Summit this weekend. And he says, you know what? This voter suppression thing is no big deal. He going to be right here, and he going to learn today. Also, it's Halloween, and I got to talk to my panel. When the hell did adults take over Halloween from kids? Oh, yeah, we're going to break this thing down. And plus, I talked with actress Zala Haneo about the importance of voting, especially when it comes to Latinos and millennials. Folks, it's time to bring the funk. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, 6 days until Election Day. We are going down to the wire. It is getting wild and crazy out there all across this country. You have ballot initiatives in North Carolina, in Michigan, plus Florida. You also have huge gubernatorial races in Maryland, in Georgia, as well as in Florida. Of course, you got the big Senate races all across the country as well. And so all of our attention and focus on voting. And one of the reasons I'm wearing this hat right here, because I cannot deal with black people who are sitting on their ass and who don't want to vote. And then, of course, those out there who say voting is important, like you, Jason Whitlock, which is about the dumbest thing in the world, because how in the hell you think stuff actually gets changed in this country? Speaking of that, big changes happening in Georgia, where the Queen of Talk, she is hitting the campaign trail this weekend for Stacey Abrams. That's right, Oprah is going to be making her way to Georgia to campaign for Stacey Abrams. It is an absolutely tight race there in the Peach State. And look, I'm telling you right, it's just, again, it's all kind of drama there. Speaking of drama, Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, I forgot the third dude who's running, I don't know who he is. They're supposed to have a debate on Sunday on WSB. It's supposed to be at 5 p.m., but Brian Kemp said, oh, I can't make it because I'm going to be at the Trump rally at 4 o'clock. And so he's pulling out of that, and now he's trying to blame Stacey Abrams for it. Dude, it was set. Everybody else got it. How is it that you didn't get it as well? And so also, speaking of Brian Kemp, civil rights groups have won another victory in that case. A federal judge has declined to pause an injunction she ordered that changes how Georgia election officials evaluate absentee ballots. That pause was requested by Secretary of State Brian Kemp. Voters, of course, with mismatches must be notified of the problem. They can appeal the decision and vote with a provisional ballot. I want to go to my panel right now. Let's get right into it. On my far left, of course, Joe Madison. the Black Eagle, Sirius XM Radio, also Lauren Victoria Burke, writer for National Newspaper Reporters Association. Of course, Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant is in the house. Empowerment Temple in Baltimore, and Deborah Simmons, senior correspondent of the Washington Times. Glad to have all of you here. And so it's getting a little froggy out there. Brian Kemp, Deborah, is a little worried.
He ought to be worried. I mean, I think he thought that, okay, Trump did what he did in Georgia. I'm going to do what I do in Georgia. And there's a whole bunch of folks down there in red clay dirt territory that's saying, wait a minute, hold up. Who do you think you are? You know what? You really have to go head to head. The United States today is not the United States we had in 2016. It's not the United States we had in 2014. Right. And it's certainly not the United States that Barack Obama swung into, voted, put him in place back in 2008. And you have to measure yourself and measure your tone, which President Trump isn't doing, as we all know, every election. Not just every 4 years, but every election, whether it's a state election or a national election.
So the key here, Lauren, is that what Stacey Abrams did, first of all, with the Georgia Voter Project, registering some 300,000 people. You look at what took place in 2016, where you had a candidate running for U.S. Senate, white female. Bottom line is, she was not sitting here even trying to compete for black folks. It was one of those things with, okay, I don't want to talk to black people. I'm really trying to convince these white people, especially suburban women, and she got her behind dusted. Stacey Abrams said, no, I'm going to focus on the people who actually vote for us, and I'm trying to turn out more of them versus trying to go after that mythical white woman who never seems to show the hell up.
What a concept, right? To bring people to the polls who actually vote for the party that you're in over 90% of the time, which is basically what Steve Phillips, of course, has been writing about for years. And we'll see if it actually happens. One of the issues here is that Libertarian candidate, Ted Metz, who is probably going to take votes away from Kemp, and probably prevent them both from getting to 50%. So if we go to the December runoff, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I do think she'll probably get more votes than Kemp, and that's a huge victory in itself. But if she doesn't make the 50 and we have the runoff in December, it kind of takes the joy out of it for that moment. We'll see what happens. Traditionally in these polls, even though we know it's going to be close, everybody knows it's going to be close, there is an undercount for minority voters, so hopefully that'll be the case here. And if we see that in Texas, that Beto O'Rourke pulls that out, which is unlikely actually, but if he did pull that out, the more likely one, of course, is Andrew Gillum in Florida. You could have what you could define as a realignment in the South if those three people were to win, or if only two of them won, if two of the three. Right. Because, of course, Georgia and Florida are red states. Obviously, Texas is a red state. And as much as everybody talks about Georgia every single cycle, it usually does go Republican. So the fact that she's ahead in the polls is actually in itself a pretty amazing thing.
Joe and Jamal, bottom line is here. If you want to win, again, this is real simple. You turn out those who you know are going to come out. Jamal, look, it's like look, being a pastor of a church, you know who gonna show up to Bible study.
Absolutely.
You know who gonna show up. Now, if you want to spend all your time trying to get the folk who not gonna show up and ignore the folks who do show up, then you're gonna have a problem. Stacey Abrams has run a smart campaign saying, no, go after the people and turn out more of them who we know are likely to vote for her.
But she also did something that's not conventional for black politics, is she started her base in rural areas and then moved towards Atlanta. And a lot of people 18 months ago said, oh, this is crazy. There's no way it's going to work. And so she really has revolutionized our model to say we've got to go after a much larger base. The other part is look at the people who didn't vote. I contend, as I go to colleges all over the country, is Trump was elected not from the people who voted for him, but for the people who didn't show up to vote. And so if we can get those people back engaged in the process. I took my daughters to go vote Monday and was amazed. We had to wait in line for 30 minutes. At the last election...
And that's early voting.
Yeah, that's for early voting. The last election, we were whistling Dixie and playing Uno. But this one, I had to really wait. And even the marshals said, we haven't seen this since '08. So I think it's going to be a lot of upsets on Tuesday night. I think all of us are going to be...
Yo, they forget that black people in rural Georgia, too.
Well, exactly. That's absolutely true. So and there's two things. One, she has a track record as a state legislator.
Yes.
And so that means that you look at that record, it's not her ideology that they want to keep playing on. Oh, she's a liberal progressive. She has been saying, look at the legislation that I introduced, look at the legislation that I voted for, right. And quite candidly, it's helped more white rural folk than, or just as much as it's helped urban Atlanta. Right. Then there's the other factor, what's still fresh in everybody's mind. Georgia is next to Alabama, and Alabama shifted. Yes. And people remember that. Yes. So I think the black women in Georgia are trying to show the black women in Alabama that we can do the same thing. Absolutely. And let me tell you, with Oprah coming down there,
it's going to be heavy.
It's going to be fascinating to see the energy that she brings.
Well, it's back to back. Obama will be there this weekend.
Oh my God!
He's going to Morehouse, right?
He'll be at Morehouse, and Oprah also will be following as well. And again, and then of course Monday at Ebenezer, there's going to be a prayer rally at 7 p.m. That night. Reverend William Barber, of course, Pastor Ralph Warnock, all of them are going to be there. That's taking place on Monday evening as well. And so you have a strong closing. Same thing for Andrew Gillum. That's taking place in Florida. Of course, we can't forget Ben Jealous, who's running in Maryland. Republicans are actually worried because they're seeing significant turnout as well. And so in a moment, we're going to be talking with Ben Jealous about that race and what's going on. But first, we've been talking about voter suppression for quite some time, about what's going on here. And we see what continues to happen, that this is, frankly, standard policy on the Republican Party. And so I was talking about that. And so this weekend, when they had the young black conservatives gathering, Deborah, which was interesting because they wouldn't let a lot of black media actually cover it, including us, about pulling the press credentials, but you want to reach black folks. And so one of the folks who was on social media talking about that was Robert Maxwell, Deputy Communications Director for the Arizona Republican Party and also Director of the Arizona Black Conservative Federation. And so he wanted to challenge me to this conversation. I said, fine, you want to do that? Come on, so we can have that conversation. So Robert joins us right now. So Robert, we saw the legal decision in Georgia today where the judge refused Brian Kemp's goal when it came to that particular injunction. We are still seeing what is taking place in many other states. This is real simple. Why aren't more black conservatives, black Republicans saying anything, calling out its party when it comes to the constant voter suppression they're engaged in?
Well, I think we should make it clear that voter suppression, what you guys call voter suppression on the left, we call voter integrity. And actually, black conservatives are doing a lot to make sure black votes are not suppressed. And what they're doing is they're taking a stance against illegal immigration and voter fraud in order to do so.
Got a question, Robert? Got a question for you. It's real simple. Real simple. How much voter fraud have we seen? What's the numbers?
Secretaries of states in liberal places like California won't even comply with President Trump's voter integrity commission.
Really?
So we actually don't know what the number is.
1 second, Robert. Robert, you said liberals?
2.8 illegal immigrants in this country, and that is not doing anything great for black votes and empowering the black vote.
Robert, you didn't answer my question. You actually said liberals, secretaries of state. I recall Chris Kobach was the co-chair of Trump's voter commission, correct?
If you say so.
Not if you say so, it's a fact. Chris Kobach was the co-chair of Trump's voter integrity commission, correct?
Okay.
Chris Kobach is the Secretary of State of Kansas, correct?
Okay.
Chris Kobach wouldn't even turn over his voter rolls. So you're complaining about so-called left states, but Chris Kobach, a Republican, Secretary of State of Kansas, who is running for governor of Kansas, would not even turn over his own data. So why aren't you criticizing the Republican secretaries of state who also would not turn over their data?
Because the Democrats have created a political environment to where solutions are not practical. If Kobach does that, if he complies with President Trump's very modest and ambitious goal to make sure that voter integrity is upheld, what do you think would have happened to him during his run for governor? You're smart, I'm smart, so let's not pretend that this one anchor statement on this one Republican somehow means that President Trump's voter suppression concept was moved.
Really? Let me ask you a question. Is this Robert, 1 second. Robert, 1 second. Robert got a question. Robert, I got a question.
Not giving me a chance to speak.
Robert, I got a question. Robert, I got a question.
agree that illegal immigrants voting is bad for the black community?
Robert,
Will you concede that does not empower black votes?
Robert, this is what, Robert, this is what I know. A panel of Republican lawyers did their own study of voter fraud and found virtually none.
Really, virtually none. Texas Democrats just last week. There's an investigation in Texas Democrats just last week. They were sending voter registration ballots to illegal immigrants with the citizen box already checked. That is not for the black vote. That does not empower black votes.
Robert, here's what's amazing.
Let's not talk about voter suppression, which is a smokescreen used by liberals in order to scare and antagonize minorities.
Well, so if it's a smokescreen by liberals, why is it that when former North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory invited General Colin Powell to North Carolina, General Colin Powell, lifelong Republican, chastised McCrory to his face from the stage and chastised North Carolina Republicans for passing an onerous voter ID, voter suppression bill? That was Republican Colin Powell. How do you respond to that?
Because Republican Colin Powell is just as big of a rhino as any of these other never-Trumpers who do not want to see President Trump's America First agenda.
Robert, here's the problem, Robert, here's the problem. Robert, I want
for more than 15 seconds, Roland. That's not how this interview is going to go.
Robert, I'm going to let you finish, but I want to give you facts. Colin Powell did this before Trump ran.
He did what before Trump ran?
He called out. No, Robert, I'm going to let you talk, but I want you to have your facts straight. He called out Pat McCrory before Trump even ran. So you can't accuse Colin Powell of trying to thwart Trump's agenda when he called it out before Trump even announced. Now, how do you respond?
He called what out? Specifically,
he called out the onerous voter suppression bill that was passed in North Carolina that a federal court struck down and said that was discriminatory intent and that was a laser-like targeting of black voters. Are you defending that bill?
No, I'm defending the concept of voter suppression. Now, I know this is what you're going to try.
You're defending voter suppression?
Finish talking.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I can't wait to hear this one.
Let me finish. You're trying to pigeonhole me into one specific policy.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you a question, but go ahead.
I'm not a North Carolina guy. All I know is the national talking points of voter suppression is not framed properly because African American votes are not empowered by illegal immigrants voting. You want to talk about voter suppression? Let's talk about illegal immigrants voting. Let's talk about restoring voter integrity into our elections, and let's not have dead people vote.
Robert,
in California for the past 50 years, right?
Robert,
so that's for genuine, legitimate discussion of voter integrity, not voter suppression. Let me tell you a couple of other things about voter suppression. Voter suppression is a term of art that was created by Democrats over the past decade in order to scare African Americans and make them think that Republican policies evoke Jim Crow-era regulations on voting. That is just patently false. In fact, I saw your little show yesterday.
What was patently false? I'm sorry, Robert. Robert, 1 second. What was patently false about North Carolina?
Stop. Voter suppression laws that you're talking about are voter ID laws. That's not voter suppression, Martin. All that is voter integrity. And in fact, 77% of non-whites support voter ID laws. So
Robert,
let's get the facts straight before you speak. I'm going to let you speak. I just want you to get the facts.
Robert,
right? 77% of non-whites support voter ID laws.
Robert, this is the lead paragraph in a story from May 15, 2017. The Supreme Court on Monday refused to revive a restrictive North Carolina voting law that a federal appeals court has struck down as an unconstitutional effort to, quote, target African Americans with almost surgical precision. Robert, we also know that a state senator in Wisconsin admitted that the effort by Republicans in Wisconsin to raise the voter fraud flag was a joke. In fact, this Republican state senator in Wisconsin said he then hired his own people to go out to find voter fraud, and what he found were examples of voter fraud by Republicans. This is a Republican state senator who served more than 30 years. Also, 5 federal judges in Texas ruled that the voter ID law in Texas had discriminatory intent. A federal judge a week ago ruled that the Missouri Republican Secretary of State should not be running an ad saying that folks should be bringing their ID when they didn't have to. That happened just a week ago. Now,
That's
you
not
now
voter
1
suppression,
second.
That's voter integrity.
Oh,
And
that's
let-
voter
and let-
integrity.
And let's talk. And let's get back on Texas. Like I just mentioned, and you were shockingly silent. Texas, literally, Democrats have been sending ballots with the "Are you a citizen?" voter registration cards with the "Are you a citizen?" already checked. You should look that up yourself if you haven't done the research.
Here's my
look
question.
This up. There's an
How
entire
many-
investigation into this.
okay.
Texas Democrats. Oh, by the way, this past primary that we had here in Arizona, the Democrat Maricopa County recorder was disastrous. 6 hours waiting in line. People had to vote. In fact, some of the polling places. No, let me finish. Some of the polling places, Republicans showed up and they didn't even have a ballot there in their name. So what does this show us?
Oh,
this
really,
shows
Robert?
Us that voter suppression and concept of voter suppression or a voter incompetence happens along party lines.
Hey,
It's not
Robert.
something that Republicans try to do in order to disenfranchise
Robert.
the African community. However, people like
That's a lie, Robert. You know you're lying.
do what you're paid to do, and you're essentially trying to create and invoke a certain fear in the black community.
No, I'm not. I'm stating fact.
Your votes.
Here's a
When
fact,
in
Robert. Robert, here's a fact. Here's a fact. A
in
clerk.
two states where Democrats are the ones doing and guilty of voter suppression. So
Answer this,
I don't know,
Robert.
You tell me, Democrats or Republicans?
Robert,
You tell me
answer this.
And Republicans are the only ones trying to bring integrity back to
No,
voting.
no, you're
And
not.
voter ID laws
Hey,
do that.
hey, Robert, this is
Voter ID
real
laws
simple.
do that.
Robert, let me give you some facts. A clerk in Wisconsin stated in 2016 she purposely removed an early voting location from a college campus to a far-out place because she said too many young folks vote Democrat. In 2016, Robert, a federal judge called in Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, to say why were they dragging their feet on delivering voter IDs. That's a fact. Robert, what's amazing to me is you want to throw out, illegal immigrants and how it's hurting black voters. Hold up, 1 second, Robert. Robert, you don't have, Robert, you have no evidence. You have literally no evidence. And the problem is, at Republicans, this is by design. Robert, we can go down the line. Florida, Mississippi. I'm not done. Florida. We just had the NAACP just won a case in Shelby County where Republicans were trying not to certify folks who registered to vote. So you're defending nonsense. The fact of the matter is you have black Republicans who have far more credibility than you. Black Republicans who actually have been, frankly, black Republicans longer than you've been alive, who say, you know what our party is doing is wrong. And for some reason, you literally are defending folks who are suppressing the vote, but then Republicans run around and say, oh, we voted for the Voting Rights Act. We voted for the Civil Rights Act. How can you, as a self-respecting black man, defend folks who are trying to actually keep others from voting?
I'd like to ask you the same question. How can you, as a self-respecting black man, encourage illegals to vote, which highly saturates the voting pool and makes black votes functionally useless?
And you have no
proof about how in Texas, Democrats are sending ballots with their citizenship box already filled in. I've heard no response from that. Additionally, I told you about what's taking place in California, where voter registration in some counties are at 100%.
Well, guess what, Robert? The reason we have attorney generals.
I don't understand how you, as a self-respecting black.
The reason we have attorney generals who also investigate those things. And all I'm saying is show the proof. But you know what, Robert? Hey, if you are more than happy, with voter suppression, that's fine. But I can guarantee you this here. But you said doesn't exist. Robert, this is real simple. I'm going to go down the line. This is the last one for you, Robert. This is the last one. I'm going to go down the line. Missouri, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. You even had in Maine, where Republicans in Maine got rid of same-day voter registration when the citizens didn't even ask for them to do it. And what happened? The next year, the citizens put it back on the ballot, and then they said, no, what you did was wrong. So how is it that as a party, you keep trying to deny folks the right to vote? Go ahead, your final comment.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about what citizens want. 77% of non-whites are in favor of voter ID laws.
Got it.
Why? Because they want their vote to count as Americans who's helped build this country. So my question to you is, why do Democrats not listen to their constituents and just accept voter ID laws? In fact, In 2002, voter ID laws were going to get passed as a part of the Help America Vote Act, and it almost got killed because Republicans tried to add voter ID laws to it, because Democrats don't want voter ID laws. Why? Why do you think that is, Roland? Because they have illegals voting. And I don't understand how you, as a black man who's supposed to be so pro-black, you're shocked that I didn't know who you were because you're so pro-black. You can't be so pro-black if you're letting illegals vote, which is saturating the black market. That's not empowering the black vote, Roland.
All right,
you
Robert.
know that.
Robert, it's all good. I thank you for coming on. You repeated the same talking points several times. I appreciate it, but it's a joke to somehow saying, illegals are voting. But again, Robert, I'll have you back on. I'm about to talk to Ben Jealous right now. No, Robert, I'm going to have you back on. But do me a favor, go find some new talking points, because you keep repeating the same one over and over again. It's sort of redundant. But Robert,
I'm not sure if you're or if you're just ignoring it.
No, I'm not ignoring it, but I appreciate it, Robert. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, joining us right now in studio is Ben Jealous. He is running against Larry Hogan. Ben, you had to enjoy that.
Oh, my gosh.
Because as somebody who ran the NAACP, you kind of know about voter suppression.
Well, here's the thing, right? The Republicans kept commissioning these studies to prove that undocumented folks had voted, and they kept proving themselves wrong. So then they just stopped commissioning new studies, and they just started asserting it as fact because their own studies had proven that it wasn't a fact. And that's what we're dealing with, is this kind of dystopian sort of parallel universe. They listen to Alex Jones, they listen to, Rush Limbaugh. They're disconnected from facts, even the facts of their own studies.
Well, I mentioned a guy from Wisconsin, and it was an amazing story. And he came out and said, you know what? My party lied. He said, we kept talking about voter fraud, and I kept asking, I was asking my fellow Republicans, where's the voter fraud? He said, and they kept giving me anecdotes. He said, so he then went to his staff and hired people to say, okay, go find voter fraud. And he found Republican voter fraud. And he said, we lied. He said, we lied. This is a 30-plus year Republican who said my party was lying about voter fraud.
You literally have a greater chance of being eaten by a shark, struck by lightning the same place twice, finding somebody who truly believes they were abducted on a UFO, than you do of finding somebody who's actually committed prosecutable voter fraud.
That's again, though. But again, what you have here is you have the game that's being played because you want to throw this whole deal with fear out. I made the point about how we're 6 days inside of the election, and I was talking to a couple of Republicans in Maryland, and they're concerned because they said that I saw basically their numbers are supposed Republican turnout is up about 30 or 40%. They said, but Democrat turnout up 140+%.
So here's the thing, right? They all act surprised. No, what was I known for in 2012? Leading the NAACP and turning out 1.2 million unlikely voters to help reelect Barack Obama. All we're doing in this race is what I've done my entire life. We put it in perspective, Roland. At the end of day 5 of early vote 3 years ago, Democrats were up 50,000 votes over Republicans. This year, we're up 150,000 votes. Day 6, the Republican trend dropped off. They actually returned 2014 levels. We were still about 2.5 times our 2014 levels. So I'm urging everybody in Maryland to keep voting, keep early voting. We keep this up, and we got this.
And look, 3 weeks ago, folks were saying, look, Ben's DOA. He's down 18 points. He's down 20 points to Larry Hogan.
The one person who wasn't saying that was Larry Hogan, because he was in a similar place 4 years ago. So this is looking like deja vu all over again, except he's in the opposite spot this time.
And so in the final 6 days, what connection do you make? What do you, is it about, have we got to the point where, look, you can run as many ads as you want to. Is this purely about ground game?
It's purely about ground game. We have 6 times more organizers on the ground than we did 4 years ago. We are running a scrappy, tough insurgent campaign, focused, you're doing something no Democrat in, say, the post-World War II history of Maryland has ever had to come to a crowded primary to take on an incumbent. And so we've run a very tough campaign, very disciplined from the beginning. We're focused on flushing out voters. We're on the doors, we're on the phones. Yesterday, we made 100,000 phone calls in one day. And we're just pushing. This is what we NAACP guys know how to do. And we're just simply doing what we do and pushing folks to the polls.
Also, digital, the role that's playing. I was talking with a couple of people, and they are also helping you in that area, too.
Yeah. Our digital is organic. We have a movement of folks behind us. They tweet, they retweet, they post, they repost, and we don't have to pay for it. The governor doesn't have much energy on his side. He's pouring a bunch of money into it. We got people out there. They're excited. They push our stuff out.
last question for you. When you look at these other races that are going on, obviously there's far more attention. You look at more of the national media attention that's on Andrew Gillum, that's on Stacey Abrams, that's on Beto O'Rourke, and those races there. Do you wish you could get some of that love, or are you saying, you know what, let's just focus on our borders?
I'm an old organizer. Most of the campaigns I've been involved in didn't have much attention, but we still won. And we won by sticking to our knitting and pushing folks out. In this case, what are we doing? We're all around the state talking about how we can finally fully fund our schools, how we can get healthcare costs under control, take on the pharmaceutical companies, get a better deal, and build a more inclusive economy. As you know, it's been the last 5 years as a tech investor. I know that we could be doing a lot better in Maryland. And the beauty of it is I don't have to run against Larry Hogan. He's a pretty popular guy. I just got to run against his record. I mean, everything that should have gone up went down. Everything that should have gone down went up. Schools fell in the national rankings from 1st to 6th. Our economy is so stuck that if we had the job growth of Virginia, we would have 40,000 more jobs right now, and their job growth is below national average. Murders are up 42% statewide when you don't include Baltimore City, and when you do, up over 50%. Healthcare costs are up 120%, and opioid deaths are up 160%. And that was supposed to be his signature issue, and he's completely failed. And what's worse is he has no plan to deal with any of these things. So on the one hand, he's popular. On the other hand, our message is much stronger. What it comes down to is a ground game, and our ground game is stronger too.
All right, Ben Jealous, certainly good luck with it, and we'll be watching what happens over the next 6 days.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a bunch. All right, folks, law enforcement, huge issue, and also African Americans are paying attention to those seats as well. Now, typically, when you talk about running for statewide office, it's been secretaries of state and things along those lines. But we're now seeing African Americans running to be attorney general. In Florida, in Minnesota, you got 2 black candidates who are running for AG in New York State, but also in the state of Illinois, and also in Nevada, where State Senator Aaron Ford is running against former State Assemblyman Wesley Duncan to be the next attorney general. Ford endorsed by President Barack Obama and also former Attorney General Eric Holder. And then he says he will use his office to challenge the Trump administration on health care, immigration, and the environment. And Aaron Ford joins us right now. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Roland. How are you?
Doing
great to see you.
Doing great. And so, again, it's very interesting in terms of the role that AGs are playing. You know, for so long, it was about just their states. But with the Trump administration, more and more AGs are really targeting the Trump administration and fighting them on many fronts.
That's right. No, you're right. Listen, what I've been saying consistently for the last 11 months, frankly, is that this election for us is existential. It's existential for a lot of people. We knew that Trump, as a candidate, came out saying that Mexican Americans were rapists. We knew as a candidate that Trump has said that men can grab women wherever they want to grab them. We've seen now as president that members of the LGBTQ community have to fight to serve in our military. We've heard him say that Muslims can't travel. We've heard him also say that there are good people on both sides of Charlottesville. And we see now, for example, that people fleeing persecution and turmoil in their states, if they come to our country for asylum, then we're going to take their children at the border. And as recently as yesterday, we hear Trump saying that even being born here isn't enough to make you an American. So we need attorneys general throughout the states who are going to stand up against the Trump administration that is going against our simple existence.
In your state, Latinos are critically important. We've seen that those numbers increase over the last several years. We also see what's happening in Clark County there, where we've been tracking. John Ralston tracks those numbers, and we're seeing significant turnout. And so how is it looking there on the ground in terms of against your opponent for Attorney General?
Well, we are cautiously optimistic. That's the phrase I use. We have had a robust ground game since the beginning relative to voter registration, but now getting out the vote. Over the last few days of early voting, Democrats have voted more than the Republicans have. And so what we're looking to do is have a great turnout. We are what I consider light blue right here in Nevada right now, but we're going to turn dark blue next Tuesday. All
right, then, Aaron Ford, we certainly appreciate it. Good luck in your race as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on.
All right, thanks a bunch. All right, folks, I'm going to go back to my panel here. And I got to have y'all comment on Robert Maxwell with the attorney with the Arizona GOP. Here's what's stunning, Joe. So now the new talking point is all the illegals are voting. They're voting. Dude, multiple states, all 50, reported there was no widespread voter fraud. In this 2016 story, Tennessee counted 40 credible allegations out of some 4.3 million primary and general election votes cast. In Georgia, 4.1 million ballots were cast. They said they had opened 25 inquiries into suspicious voting or election-related activity. We can go down the line. This notion, what guys like Robert have done is they bit the apple of Trump, who threw out, 3 million legal votes, which happen to be the numbers that he lost to Hillary Clinton in terms of popular vote. They have no evidence. It doesn't exist.
He lost the argument when you began to list the state by state, and in each state, it was the Republican secretaries of state. It was the Republican state committee. You know, one you left out, and I wanted to just shout out, was the admission in Florida when they got rid of souls to the polls, Reverend, on Sunday, which was extremely popular among particularly African American churches. And you had I think it was the chair of the Republican Party that actually admitted that they hired a consultant to figure out how to suppress the black vote. The other thing he doesn't understand is history. This voter suppression actually started after 2008.
Yes.
When the huge African American turnout took place. So the only thing I kept thinking for the young man, he's just been in the sun too long in Arizona.
He's true.
And his brain is baked because he's not dealing in historical fact. You know, Dr. King, and I'll close by saying, he said the two most dangerous things on the planet was sincere ignorance or conscientious stupidity.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, it's bad when they both exist in the same mind.
Well, the thing is, you hit on it right there. The minute that Barack Obama showed up and made history, it scared all these people. They've created these fake facts, fake reality.
Right.
They've created their own fake news. There's a whole lexicon now of conservative media that is just fake because they cannot deal with the reality, which is that the country is in fact changing demographically, which is in fact that the Obama coalition won that election, and that coalition includes Robert, but you know, they want to live in their fantasy world, and their fantasy world is all they've got. And at some point, reality is going to catch up with them.
Deborah, this what gets me. The Trump Commission, the Florida Secretary of State said, state law says we can't turn information over. And frankly, we won't turn information over. Texas said, ain't no way in hell we turn information over.
Right.
It's Republican.
Right.
There were New Hampshire, we ain't giving y'all a damn thing.
Right.
Numerous Republican secretaries of state.
Right.
Now what he did was, California, the Democrats, they won't turn it over. And Republicans. Because even the Republicans knew it was a BS commission.
Look, here's the thing. Whether it's 4 votes, 4,000 votes, 40,000 votes, or 4 million votes, voter fraud is wrong. Okay, can we agree on that? It's wrong. Okay. I got turned off when he says we don't use voter fraud, we use voter integrity. Well, now you lost me. Now you've lost a lot of other conservatives, Republicans, and voter integrity. What is that? Your ballot? Is it the machine? Is it that we don't have enough you know, the media's done these stories on there. A lot of millennials and college-age students who don't do early balloting because they don't know what a post office is. They don't know where to get stamps. They don't. That's where we need to focus on things like that. I can understand why young people who've been away at college and they're used to mommy and daddy handling everything, why they don't know how to go to the grocery store and get a stamp.
No, they also, this is it.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, it's not.
Right.
Exactly.
Stamps is snail mail. And
Matter of fact, look, when I do go to the post office every now and then, they say, you want to buy stamps? I'm like, hell no, what am I going to buy stamps for?
Right. Costco's
like,
famous for
I'm only in here every 3 months. What you got?
But here's the thing. If we have investigated this, and all these attorneys general have said, no problem, we have nothing to turn over to you, then let's be done with that and move on to what matters. We got all these things we're proposing that our education systems do. These dorms don't say you can come downstairs in the lobby and buy a stamp if you need one. Or, sweetie, let me show you where the website is, so you can vote online.
But this is what drives me crazy. I was just at North Carolina A&T on Sunday.
He's not going to have a job much longer, poor thing.
No, he will. He will because they like being clueless. And I'm sure he's tweeting right now saying, oh, he'll give me a chance to talk because you were talking nonsense. I'm at North Carolina A&T on Sunday. This is what the Republicans have done. There's a street on the campus.
That's right.
There's a street.
Right.
If I stand on this side of the street, I'm in one district.
Right.
If I cross the street, I'm in another district.
I'm the same way in D.C., though.
Well, first of all, D.C. ain't even a state. So I got you. I got you. But not only that, beyond that, there are no early voting locations on campuses.
Right.
Not just
None.
And that's HBCUs. What the Republicans have done, I keep saying this, and Robert did not want to have to own up to it. And then I love it. I'm not an expert on North Carolina. Well, hell, I ain't from there either, but I can read.
Right.
The Republicans in North Carolina have turned that state into 21st century Alabama.
Right.
What they have done has been so sick and demented. They literally have emails where they wrote, when are black people voting early? And they said the first week of early voting. They went, cool, we're going to get rid of all early voting locations in the whole county except one. Those are the games they're playing, and this brother can't even say, you know what, that's not right.
Let me show you the resilience of this hour, and a sterling example that crystallizes both of your points is they shut down the early polling station at Bethune-Cookman. And moved it 1 mile away from the campus. So this weekend, the SGA of Bethune-Cookman took the marching band, the football team, all of the fraternity and sorority, and they did a march.
That's what A&T did.
Yeah.
It was 2 miles. It was 2 miles.
Wow.
Bruh, hold on. Let me tell you. Let me tell you what would happen. I shot the video of them starting. I then drove a mile and waited for them to catch up and shot more video. Then when they all walked past me, I then jumped back in the car and drove to the voting location and waited. It was 2 miles they had to walk to get to the polling place.
And I think this is the synergy the Republicans are not counting on. Because it now is transcending Stacey, it's transcending Gillum, it's transcending Ben, is that there is a movement afoot for black people. This is a graduation election that is beyond a specific personality.
And you know what, Pastor, I really appreciate that because that needs to be said more often than it is, and sometimes too late to take the effect that it does. But where are we and why aren't we... Synergy, I like that word. But why aren't we raising hell long before?
We are raising hell long before.
We are.
Who's raising hell?
Are you kidding me? We talk about voting all the time. We talk about voting all the time.
Is it only Republicans in North Carolina? Wait a minute. Is it only Republicans in North Carolina that decide where polling places go?
Yes, because what happened is...
Only Republicans?
Here's why. Yes, because what happened... It's how bad it is. Because of gerrymandering, they have a majority... No. Here's the deal. The Republicans in North Carolina don't even talk to Democrats. They don't need them.
Right.
So what happened was in the last election when Cooper won, this is how dastardly Republicans are in North Carolina. The Democrats got a 4-3 majority on the state Supreme Court.
Understood.
The black guy got the most votes.
Right.
The Republicans in North Carolina said, okay, so we're going to strip the state Supreme Court of most of their power, and we're going to give it to the court that's underneath the state Supreme, the appeals court, because we have a majority there. Then what they did is, in this election, they said, we're gonna require you to run for judicial races this year as parties, but it's not gonna apply the next election. You had a Republican who retired right before they passed the law so the governor could appoint a Democrat. They said, no, you can't do that. What they have been doing is their deal is like, and right now in North Carolina, the Republicans got 6 constitutional amendments on the ballot to enshrine voter suppression,
Right.
Joe.
And
That's how deep this thing is.
They are written in such an abstract way that callers to my show are asking, how do we define this? How do we understand this? It is a sneaky way of creating the suppression. But I hesitate. Please don't say people aren't raised in hell. I cannot talk about anything for 4 hours on my show. Folk are calling from coast to coast.
Right.
The fact that lawyers, especially the NAACP attorneys and others who have formed coalitions, they're winning case after case after case. These cases aren't decided in a vacuum. And they are out there because people are totally going after it. And I will say one thing about polling: be very careful.
Oh, yeah.
Polls don't vote; people do.
And here's
and only thing I want to say: you understand, posters are having a problem with this.
right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
the old way of calling them on landlines don't work.
Who has a landline?
But here's the other thing that trips me out on this whole issue of voter suppression, and this is where John Roberts comes in. So in the Shelby v. Holder decision,
Yeah.
John Roberts goes, "Oh,
We
look
don't
at
have a
the
problem."
look at the
Right.
numbers.
Yeah.
Black folks are voting.
Right.
Bruh, we had to overcome poll tax. We had to overcome trying to say how many bubbles in a bar of soap. We had to overcome the whole issue of how many marbles in the jar. Reciting the Constitution. Black folks have always said, all right, y'all put the goal at 10 feet, at 12 feet. Okay, we're going to go practice, and then we're going to work out to learn how to dunk at 12 feet.
But see,
Oh,
they're-
y'all done moved the thing to 14 feet. Okay, we're going to go back. We're going to practice and work out. We're going to come back and we're going to shoot at 14 feet. We've always done that. In his mind, because black folks jumped over every hurdle they put in the way,
Right.
his answer was, "Oh, we don't need the voter. We don't need the Voting Rights Act."
Right.
The problem is the moment Shelby v. Holder was decided,
They started.
They started.
every
Right.
single state
It's like
run by
done.
Republicans,
Right.
literally the next day,
Right.
The next
put
day.
in voter ID laws / early voting. Right now, there are thousands fewer early voting locations in 2018 than there were in 2016 because they said if we shrink the electorate, it's so nasty, Jamal and Lauren. The woman in Wisconsin, the Republican in Wisconsin, Robert, she moved an early voting location from a college campus, you're a mile away, where they had a small parking lot. Because they wanted you to drive up and it's packed and get frustrated and turn back around. Now here you had a venue on a college campus, lots of parking, free. No. She said, quoted, too many young people vote Democrats. And moved it to a far out with a small parking lot. That's happened in all the states I mentioned. Those are the games that they're playing, and Robert is defending that nonsense.
Dodge City, Kansas, where mostly, I think it was mostly Hispanic.
Right.
Yeah.
One polling place,
Classic stuff.
and they moved it
Out the city.
out of the city where there was no public transportation close by, so people literally had to drive.
The county in Georgia, the guy who was an
Yes.
advisor
Right.
who gave money to Brian Kemp's campaign after the primary said we should shut down 7 out of 9 early voting locations.
See,
See,
what
the
you
problem-
described, and everyone has
This
heard
last
this
point before I go to
before.
my next one.
Anyway, Jim Crow is what you described, is what our grandparents went through and parents. So
Also,
Jim
it's what the
Crow.
federal court said in North Carolina case.
What is now happening, ladies and gentlemen, in the 21st century is James Crow Jr., Esquire. It's just a sophisticated version of old Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And that's what they have
But the
implemented.
numbers are going to catch up to them.
Yes.
You realize that. Because if white women do what the polls are indicating
Right.
on the 6th, and you join black voters with white
Yep.
women or any other white number, and of course Hispanic voters, they can't keep up with this. And Alabama partially proved that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we got to see what happens in Georgia and Florida. So they can play these games,
Right.
obviously targeted toward minority groups. But when you have Donald Trump in office and he starts pissing off the other demographic groups in the United
Right.
States,
Right.
you lose.
Which is why I specifically said to Sherrilyn Ifill, to Vanita Gupta, the Secretary of State of California, and a panel at CBC. Y'all keep talking about voter suppression for black folks and Latinos.
Right.
But voter suppression
Right.
is also targeting
Exactly.
young whites It's targeting the elderly as well, because in Wisconsin, 250,000 people, largely elderly, they said, did not vote because of voter ID. And the federal judge called Governor Scott Walker and said, now, the Obama administration said y'all can go ahead and do the voter IDs. Right. So why are you taking so long even issuing them? They were dragging their feet even on issuing them. So that's sort of the drama that we have. Got to go to a break right now. We come back. Another crazy white woman. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Hey folks, Roland Martin here. Now we know black women are out there voting in huge numbers, but brothers, what's going on with y'all? What I'm hearing from men, they say, look, I'm concerned about lack of jobs, I'm concerned about mass incarceration, but then they're sitting on the sidelines. That's not gonna get it. We've got to have men and women going to the polls, engaging in the process, voting on elected officials, and then holding them accountable after they are in office. This is real simple. If you don't vote, shut the hell up. Be woke. Vote. All right, folks, over the next 6 days, you're going to see more of the pieces we've done, including conversations with Zala Haneo as well as Erica Ash. So look forward to that right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, folks, one of our partners here, Trans Real Estate. If you're looking for a hot new investment opportunity, I have two things I want you to think about: legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, you just let that sink into your head for a second. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created a unique opportunity for everyday investors like you to get in the game for a minimum of $300 up to $10,000. Look, you get in where you can fit in. Now, typically, it takes millions, if not billions, to invest in the legal marijuana industry, and it can be pretty risky trying to establish market share. However, Transatlantic Real Estate is taking a different approach. They buy the land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, imagine being a landlord to a licensed marijuana farm. With the prospects of further legalization and changing public perceptions about marijuana, some investors could end up making some serious money over the next several years. The best part is they're using crowdfunding so you can get in now before they take the company public. If you want to find out more information, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in now. All right, folks, let's talk about the Senate race, okay? So in Indiana, Joe Donnelly's a Democrat. He's doing all he can to really embrace Trump, but also be a Democrat. But the other day, Obama was in town campaigning for Joe Donnelly. Lord have mercy, Joe said this.
If elected, how will you commit to bringing diversity into your leadership and senior staffing, including women, African Americans, and other underrepresented groups? Senator?
We want everybody to have a chance in Indiana and in America, and my offices reflect that, both on the campaign side and on the Senate side. Our state director is Indian American, but he does an amazing job. Our director of all constituent services, she's African American, but she does an even more incredible job than you could ever imagine.
Y'all, he said, I got an Indian American, but they do a good job.
They do a good job.
Ooh, I got a black woman, but she does a good job.
Yeah. Stay away from the butt. And she shouldn't be on your staff if you didn't think she either was going to do a good job or is doing a good job.
It reeked of, he was really just filling it in to say that he had...
He didn't expect the question either.
Well, what happened, it exposed what was the intention of the hiring, was really placeholders. Right. And then he was shocked that they were actually able to perform.
I mean, it's sort of like, right? It's like when I'm at these media conferences, they say, "Yes, we're absolutely looking for qualified minorities." Right. Well, I would think your ass looking for qualified minorities. Right. I ain't never heard somebody say, no, I'm desiring unqualified people for these jobs. Right. And I keep saying, they only use the qualified right. with us. You ain't never heard them saying, I'm looking for a few qualified white boys.
Right. You know, it's old-fashioned tokenism. We don't use that word too much. But I learned a lesson a long time ago from a former state official in Connecticut. He was the treasurer. He pulled out money. He said, look at the quarter. How much is it worth? 25 cents. I said, what's wrong with you? He said, look at the dime. How much is that worth? I said, that's 10 cents. And then he says, look at this as a bus token. He said, how much is that bus token worth, New York City bus token? I said, I don't know. He says, well, whoever gave you the token. And that's what you just heard. You just heard a man sit there describing tokenism. So I've got this token, I've got that token, and then he puts a value on the token. And that's what is wrong with what we just heard.
And was oblivious to it.
Thank you. He didn't realize.
Twice.
That's right.
Now, he said lazy. I meant to say and. Okay. Now, I got to get y'all talking. Okay, folks have been tweeting me this, and I got my own perspective on this, but so they're saying that Hillary Clinton made this joke about, I know, Joe, I guarantee you've already talked about it on your shows. I can't wait to hear you.
No, I chose not to.
You didn't chose not to? So she had an interview with Karen Swisher of Recode, and this happened.
What do you think of Cory Booker's, and you didn't comment on him, and you feel free.
Oh, I adore him.
What do you think about him saying kicked him in the shins, essentially, start to get to that kind of political?
Well, that was Eric Holder.
Yeah, Eric Holder,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know they all look alike.
No, they don't. Oh, well done. You know, Hillary.
Yeah, I was paid by Mark Zuckerberg to do that.
Okay.
All right, so all the people are like, oh my God, she's wrong. She was actually cracking on homegirl.
Right.
Hillary was really saying, well, how in the hell your ass got them confused? Yeah, all the black people look alike.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go down the line. How did you see it? When you heard that? Because
I said I wasn't going to talk about it until I got on your show. So, but I saw it the same way. That's exactly the way I saw it. She cracked on her.
Yeah.
And you know, bottom line, I mean, that was exactly what she
cracked
did.
on her.
She just cracked on her, and her got it too.
Yeah.
Her realized.
that's why she said, well played, well played. How'd you see it, Deborah?
I saw it. This is the first time I've seen it or read about it. I saw the headline,
Right.
and I was like, that don't sound right. Hillary knows better. I'm missing something in
Right.
in
If
the
you
story.
read it, it wouldn't
and
come
that's
across.
it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it right there. Because it doesn't come across in the stories that were online.
Because the way, Jamal, you're,
Now, I'm as a Gen Xer, I'm the last generation to play the dozens.
hell no, I'm a Gen Xer too.
Yeah,
And
we're the last generation,
Right.
so the millennials don't know about playing dozens. So I'm saying I took it as that. We in the back of the school bus that she really pulled her card out. I was giving her a high five and putting hot sauce in her pocket. Ran to the front of the bus.
but it's amazing how a lot of folks on social media, oh, see, Hillary is racist. She said you can't tell them apart.
Because a lot of social media goes for the reaction first instead of giving you the facts of the story.
Oh, you say context missing? Oh my
yeah,
God.
hello.
Oh my God.
To go to the point is that a lot of them on social media didn't grow up playing the dozen.
But they also
So they didn't know how to read and interpret it.
But they also,
because that's a subculture all by itself.
but you also,
Nobody reads,
you
nobody
gotta,
checks.
it's like, you also gotta watch the video.
Right.
Yeah, you really.
Bottom line is, when I see something like that, the first thing I go is, I want to see the video because
Right.
I want to see what was the setup, what was the reaction, what was the
context.
and so I'm
That's
telling
right.
when I saw it, I went, first of all, before I even saw the video, my opinion of it, because this is the first time I actually saw the video, I read about it,
Right.
was exactly what my reaction was. I went, the way I read it, I went, no, she cracked on her.
Right.
As opposed to say, oh yeah, you know, we can't tell all of them alike. No,
Right.
she was cracking on her.
Right.
So Lauren, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I thought it was pretty intuitive of her. But I've done that online. I've looked at something real fast. I did it to you the other week when you were on the Today Show, and I had the link. And I didn't realize you were in the segment. Remember that?
Right,
You were like, Lauren, I was in the segment.
She so Lauren sends me a text about the Megyn Kelly segment, and I was kind of like, yeah, Lauren, I know. I was sitting right there.
Because I didn't take the link to look at the actual video, so I was reading so fast.
Right.
Like, if you don't pay attention.
I literally like, yeah, Lauren, I know. That was me.
One of the reasons I didn't want to touch it is on radio. Radio is well, and see, radio is theater of the mind.
Right.
And I didn't know how to explain it.
Right.
But the thing about what we're doing, this is multidimensional.
Right.
So when you read the headline, and it depends on who writes the headline.
Right.
Yes.
You see, then you only get one dimension.
Exactly.
Then when you hear it, You get a second dimension. Now that we sat and saw it, and we saw the reaction of the host who went, "Oh shit!"
Right.
Okay, all right, y'all. So, this has now become a daily feature on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Crazy-ass white women. A white woman in Portland, Oregon apparently called the cops because a black couple's car was a few inches into a crosswalk.
No.
The couple was picking up a quick bite to eat. This is what happened when they came out.
They gonna call her? This is another white person calling the police on a black person because she says we're illegally. Because she's saying that we're illegally parked right here.
Come on, Maddie. Come on, please.
You are. So this is her.
It doesn't give you the right. Go home. Go back to your neighborhood.
It doesn't.
Go back to your. You're not from here. Not doing that shit. If you calling about a car that's been parked less than 5 minutes across the crosswalk,
I've been here
you ain't
10
from
minutes.
here. You an idiot.
Bro, I'm telling you, these white women are losing their mind.
No, and it's okay. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry. I have a list that I've been keeping that is now yay long. Black folk barbecuing in the park. Black folk
selling lemonade.
Selling lemonade.
Yeah.
Black folk walking into their own building.
And now I've got to add this one. It is now become
Crosswalk Karen.
It's not. It's now become a sport. It really has become a sport. I am now of the opinion that some of my folks are saying that we ought to be a law against it. In other words, if folks start calling the police on these kinds of issues, there should be a law that you either fine them, criminalize their behavior. Because, first of all, this is dangerous because while the police are coming on a call because somebody's car is in the crosswalk, there's some real crook somewhere.
It also
It's a waste of time.
It also shows generationally the lapse. So when you were growing up, there was a different ethical standard that you knew going out the house, you were admonished. Now, y'all don't act up because them white folks gonna call the police. Then there was an in-between generation that says, under NWA, F the police. So now we're seeing a revisitation. So it's not about a broken tail light. It can just be that the lights are on. And so there's got to be a whole nother talk. That's why that movie, The Hate You Give, is so critical and so important. I took my daughters.
I haven't seen that yet.
That was a great movie.
You got to go see
Great
it.
movie.
They cried through the first half. I cried through the last half. But it really gives a backdrop to a new generation of understanding what is the crisis in our community and the disconnect with police.
You know what else is scary about that is that if the police had come.
There you go.
If the police had come.
Yes.
There would have been the whole thing, where's your ID, where's the registration for the car, blah, 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 where's the witness? Scared white woman because the car is a few inches into
because the car was a little inches. She couldn't do this here.
There've been
the entire thing is
her deal is and they did show it a lot, but it was literally inches in the crosswalk.
The entire thing is, though, about somebody assuming that they have authority over you that they do not have.
See, that's the deal.
And that's why Trayvon Martin is dead today.
Precisely.
Because George Zimmerman assumes that he has authority over a young black male walking.
And George Zimmerman
when
still
he has no authority. He's not a cop.
I'm
He's
a
nothing.
fake apartment security guard.
Right.
And I have the right to ask you. It's no different than when one of the great books, The Rage of a Privileged Class by Ellis Coles. And it happened here in D.C. One of the stories in the book, there was a black law partner, comes to work early, 7 o'clock in the morning, he's suited and booted, he's got his wing tips, he's got his $1,000 briefcase, and he gets into the elevator, a little young white boy, sweater, khaki pants, blue shirt. So he looks, floor press, all right, cool, all right, so I'm going to the elevator, just chilling, all right. So then I get to the floor, and so the young man go ahead, the white boy got off the elevator, and the black guy got off the elevator, and they go to the door. The white boy pulls out his key card, unlock the door. Brother's like, he goes, I'm sorry, may I help you?
Who are you?
And he's going, no, I'm going to my office. Who are you?
Right.
The white clerk.
Right.
This was a partner in the law firm.
Right.
This white clerk felt that he had the right to question this black law partner.
Exactly.
Right.
Law partner, Ellis writes in the book, law partner goes into his office and he is fuming. He is mad. He's because he's like, wait a minute, hold up. I'm a damn partner. This is a lowly ass clerk.
Right.
And he felt that he had the right to ask me who I was. Which first of all says, if you're the white clerk, how in the hell you don't know who the partners in the law firm are?
Right.
Right.
And this brother was just angry. And this story spread all around D.C. And that speaks to black professionals, where you have folks who have this position like, I get to ask, I'm white. I can ask you anything and you have to comply. This is like South Africa in the passbook. Show me your papers.
In America, we are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior, black is inferior.
Yep.
And the manifestation of that cultural conditioning is that black is undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. Speaking of generation, now you've got a generation that says, we're not going to be undervalued. We're not going to be marginalized. That's
and we ain't going to pray.
And that's why you heard the young man said that you must be crazy. But I also can tell you how many times that I've been in front of a hotel, NAACP conventions, and somebody has handed me the keys to their Mercedes. And asked me if I would park it. And there's been some times I've thought about taking those keys.
Aaron Mosley Braun did that to me.
Yeah.
The convention, the Black Caucus convention, bunch of us are standing there talking. She walks up and hands me the keys and says, I was told you'd park my car legally. And I said, they said I would? They said I would? She said no, but she said just go to that clutch down there in the lobby. And I said, I think it's the wrong clutch.
But it's
cultural,
no one is immune.
No, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And for those who don't know, Carrie Mosley is black. but
no one is immune.
And the thing is, what we have to see, it's also how we react. I've had people who got mad at me. They're like, oh, man, why you act a fool when people ask you on planes, did you play football? Because, damn it, I didn't. Don't ask me if you heard I went to Texas A&M and I got on a hat and a shirt. The white boy got on Alabama gear. You ain't ask his ass if he played ball. And the thing,
but he doesn't look like a fullback. You do.
Right. And hold on. And if they actually saw a fullback, they know this ain't how a fullback look. But that's sort of this whole thing. And you're right. This is those conditioning. Yeah. But this generation ain't gonna suck it up.
Nope. And that was the beauty of Black Lives Matter. They came in the door with that attitude of we're not taking this. We're not doing this.
Right.
That to me was.
So I said this yesterday, so I'm going to go ahead and do this PSA again. White women in America, I'm about to help you out. If you would like to keep your job, if you would like to be anonymous, if you would love to just go and have a regular life, don't act the ass, because this right here going to make your ass famous. If you act a fool about some inches in the crosswalk, we are going to let the whole world know you exist. Now, a whole bunch of y'all keep losing y'all jobs, and I keep saying, for every white woman and every white man who act a fool and we capture on video and they get fired, we should send 20 black people to apply for their job. I'm telling you, if white people keep going crazy, we could get rid of all black unemployment every time they act a fool. And so, if any of y'all are encountered by a crazy white person, pull your phone out. Well, do me a favor. Turn your phone this way. That way is horizontal because it fills the whole screen up versus the vertical. You got the black bars on the side. We want to see the whole picture. We want to see all of them. So that's all you have to do, and we'll be more than happy to have this as a regular feature every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered, because the new segment is going to be called Crazy White Women. I appreciate y'all for watching. Don't forget to support Black Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Again, 6 days left to vote. We're going to be tomorrow. I'll be broadcasting live from Texas Southern University. Looking forward to being in my hometown of Houston. One of the reasons I'm wearing this hat, I got a phone call today. They told me that first of all, that black turnout is low in Houston. So I'm going home to do something about that, because I can't have y'all embarrassing the hell out of me. We can't have that. And also, I'm going to pull this up here. I'm going to try to. I'm going to have it for you tomorrow. There are 19 black women 19 black women who are running for judge in Houston.
Wow.
It is amazing. Yes, it's amazing. I had it on my phone here, and then I'm gonna go to my Instagram page. So Henry, you're gonna pull it up in a second. So let me pull it up here. And I posted this the other day. Nope, that's not it. Because it's amazing. Here's the photo right there. Again, here you go to my page there. 19 black women who are running for judge. And so, folks, y'all got to vote. You also got black women who are running for judicial races and DA races in Alabama as well. And so, please, I need everybody watching to understand this here. Don't just vote for the top of the ticket. Don't just vote for who's running for governor and senator and the U.S. House or even the statewide offices. Remember, all those down ballot positions are just as important. Those clerk jobs, those judges, those folks who are DAs, all of those races matter to us as well. And so be sure to vote. Appreciate it. Deborah, Jamal, Lauren, Joe Madison, had a good time. And again, crazy white women, calm the hell down. Or we gonna make you famous. Holla.